one concern with your campaign is that you have a lack of experience in government. Do you see this as a problem, and what do you feel qualifies you for office?
I actually see it as a gift. You know, I'm not beholden to anyone going into this race. I've been politically active for 12 years, whether it's working on campaigns. First campaign I ever worked on was with Ralph Nader, and then Democrats from there on out. I've been involved in issues at City Hall, particularly regarding hard to hire individuals, second chance acts, you know, going to Voinovic's office when you could go to Voinovic's office to bring in petitions so people could get jobs. I'm politically well-versed. Having friends at City Hall working on folks' campaigns or down there understand how things work, obviously not as well as being there, but at least understand it once I do get elected come November. But again, to go back to where I began, I see it as a blessing. I have a real hard-working campaign team and a lot of folks that have gotten into politics because they care about the community. They do not-for-profit work, and they're extremely honest and extremely trustworthy. So I think my biggest qualification, though, is that I have loads of integrity and I put my money where my mouth is.
Carolyn, for Mike.
Mike, we all know that you're a supporter of the streetcar, but let's go to the public transit system. How well does our current public transit system contribute to the economy and quality of life of the city, the county, and the region? What would you do to change it?
I think the city's made some really great moves. I love seeing the new Metro Plus buses around town. And I think this current council has done, I know as a challenger I'm supposed to slam everything they've done, but in this instance I think they've done a nice job. Now the city needs to be more connected. I talk to folks in Mount Auburn, particularly elderly folks that now have to go down to Government Square if they want to catch a metro to get to the hospitals. So we need to make sure, particularly in our communities that are elderly or lower income, that are relying more on public transit, that you know, more frequent stops. Additionally, if I may return to something I talked about at the beginning with visitability and accessibility, our county has federal $5310 for accessible transportation. Currently we have one accessible cab. Wendell Young's done some nice work with the Taxi Cab Commission. We have one accessible cab. The money's there. We need to design a plan, again, to make it more accessible, and 10% of our cab users are citizens with disabilities.
Okay, Kevin, what's your question for Mike?
Like most issues in life have a positive side and a negative side. I want you to comment, coming from your non-profit sector experience, do you think the investment in Over the Rhine and downtown are pricing people out of those neighborhoods? And do you have any qualms about gentrification?
You know, I do have qualms about gentrification. I'll say this about 3CDC. When they came to town in 2003, when Mayor Lucan and the council at the time, including John Cranley, abolished the Planning Commission and privatized it and passed a housing impact ordinance, it made it very difficult for low-income people in the affordable housing sector. That said, 3CDC is not perfect. Nobody's perfect. When they came to town, I reached out right away with Steve Leeper to get buildings from him to see if I could use some of my rehab crews for affordable rates, and he agreed. Mercer Commons, I think, is a nice model, having affordable units, but it's no secret that people are getting priced out. But I like to point the finger where the finger needs to be pointed, and that's a lot of the sweetheart TIF deals that were also created by that council in 2003. And those bonds are going to come back to bite us in about 20 years. And yeah, our bond rating is lower, but I also want to make note we still have a better bond rating than about 90% of cities in the country. So it's not Chicken Little, it's not doom and gloom, but those bond deals for those TIF districts need to be reevaluated. Not taken back, but reevaluated.
What kinds of things can you do as a city council person to ensure racial and socioeconomic unity in the urban core? Right, so what you gonna do in the ghetto to keep the poor people happy?
First of all, I'd like to see the African American Chamber move to the Economic Development Fund so that it's better protected every single budget cycle when it's starting to be cut. Currently, the African American majority in our city has 1% shared business equity. You do not need an economics degree to know that if a majority of your citizens have a 1% shared equity, that you're headed for failure. Much more so than a lot of these other scare tactics we hear that are going to bankrupt our city. This issue matters. Secondly, the recidivism rate. The University of Cincinnati has some of the leading research on how to combat recidivism in the city. I would go to the University of Cincinnati for all of their guidance and to get their data when I push through my social impact bonds. And by push through, of course, I mean with a council majority of 5. And I would also, again, the affordable housing issues. Every single neighborhood needs to bear the moral responsibility of our low-income brothers and sisters. We cannot put people in one certain area and promote crime by designing ghettos, what seems to me is intentionally. We need to be holistic and look at all of us as one Cincinnati.
Mike Moroski.
I'm Mike Moroski. I will structurally balance the budget through fiscally responsible, economically moral initiatives that vet capital projects and see to it they retain jobs, promote safety, and retain citizens. I will serve, as I always have, as a voice for the voiceless, seeing to it all residents in all 52 neighborhoods have proper representation on council. Lastly, I will invest in people, seeing to it our city's human services are considered what they actually are for 50% of our children in this city, which is vital basic services, by funding it to 1% at the end of my 4-year term. I'm Mike Moroski. I ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.